What if I told you he's not choosing the most beautiful woman in the room, he's choosing the woman who makes him feel the most powerful, peaceful, and understood. Attraction isn't random, it's psychological, and most people completely misunderstand what really drives a man's decision to commit. Today, we're diving into what actually happens inside a man's mind when he's deciding who his dream woman is, not based on fantasy, not based on movies, but based on emotional wiring, psychology, and long-term thinking. Because once you understand this, you stop guessing and start positioning yourself with confidence. Emotional safety comes first. Before attraction becomes attachment, before attention becomes commitment, a man's brain asks one silent question. Can I relax here? This happens automatically. It is not dramatic. It is not poetic. It is biological and psychological. The male nervous system, just like anyone else's, constantly scans for threat or safety. If he feels judged, criticized, controlled, or emotionally attacked, his brain shifts into defense mode. But if he feels accepted, respected, and understood, his body shifts into calm mode. And calm is where bonding begins. Step 1 is understanding how the brain processes connection. When a man interacts with a woman, his subconscious mind evaluates her tone, facial expressions, reactions, and energy. Is she safe to open up to? Or will vulnerability be used against him later? Many men are not taught to express emotions freely, so when they do share something personal, even something small, it is a risk. If that risk is met with sarcasm, dismissal, or comparison, his brain records pain. But if that risk is met with patience and understanding, his brain records safety. Step 2 is recognizing that emotional safety is not about agreeing with everything he says. It is about how disagreements are handled. Two people can have different opinions and still feel safe with each other. Emotional safety means he knows he will not be humiliated for thinking differently. It means conflict does not automatically turn into character attacks. When discussions stay respectful, his nervous system stays regulated. And when the nervous system is regulated, attachment deepens naturally. Step 3 involves acceptance. Every human being has flaws, insecurities, and unfinished parts. If he senses that he must constantly perform to earn approval, he will feel pressure, not peace. Pressure creates anxiety. Anxiety reduces emotional bonding. But when he feels that he can show his imperfect side without being shamed, something powerful happens. His guard lowers. And when the guard lowers, connection grows. Step 4 is consistency. Emotional safety is not built in one conversation. It is built in repeated experiences. If one day she's warm and the next day she is explosive, his brain cannot predict the environment. Unpredictability triggers stress. But consistent calm responses create reliability. Reliability builds trust. Trust builds emotional security. Now, let's make this practical. Imagine he comes home after a long day at work. He says, "I messed up a presentation today." In that moment, he is slightly vulnerable. There are two possible responses. The first response is, "You always overthink things. Why didn't you prepare better?" Even if it sounds logical, his brain hears criticism. His stress increases. He closes off. The second response is, "That sounds frustrating. What happened?" That response communicates curiosity instead of judgment. His body relaxes. He feels understood. The problem may still exist, but now he associates her with support, not stress. Over time, his brain links her presence with relief. Emotional safety also includes how emotions are expressed. If every small issue becomes a dramatic explosion, his brain learns that closeness equals chaos. But if emotions are expressed calmly and clearly, he feels stable. Stability is extremely attractive on a deep psychological level. It signals long-term potential. It tells his mind, life with her will not be a battlefield. Another step is respect during vulnerability. When he shares fears, doubts, or past mistakes, those moments are sacred. If those confessions are later used as weapons during arguments, emotional safety disappears instantly. His brain will remember the betrayal. He will stop sharing. But if his vulnerabilities are protected, he feels secure. Protection of vulnerability creates loyalty. Emotional safety is also connected to tone of voice. Words matter, but tone carries emotional weight. A calm tone signals safety. A mocking or harsh tone signals threat. The brain reacts more to tone than to actual vocabulary. That is why someone can say the right words in the wrong tone and still create damage. Being mindful of tone creates an atmosphere where openness feels safe. It is important to understand that emotional safety does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means creating an environment where both people feel heard without fear. When a man feels emotionally safe, he becomes more open, more affectionate, and more committed. He invests more because he feels secure. Here's one actionable tip you could apply immediately. The next time he expresses something vulnerable or frustrating, pause for 3 seconds before responding. Just 3 seconds. In that pause, choose curiosity instead of reaction. Instead of correcting, fixing, or criticizing, ask one calm question. Do you want advice or just someone to listen? That simple sentence changes everything. It shows respect. It shows awareness. It shows emotional intelligence. And it instantly increases emotional safety. When emotional safety is present, communication improves naturally. Arguments become discussions. Silence becomes comfort instead of distance. Affection becomes natural instead of forced. His brain stops scanning for danger and starts building attachment. Men may not always say, "I need emotional safety," but their behavior reveals it. They open up more. They stay longer in conversations. They share future plans. They introduce you proudly. They relax physically around you. All of these are signs that his nervous system feels secure. Emotional safety is powerful because it touches the deepest human need, the need to feel accepted without fear. When a man feels that he can be strong without being attacked and vulnerable without being shamed, his connection grows deeper than surface attraction. Attraction may start the spark, but safety keeps the fire burning. And remember, this is not manipulation. This is emotional maturity. When you create safety, you are not shrinking yourself. You are strengthening the foundation of connection. Emotional safety comes first, because without it, nothing else can truly grow. Respect deeply impacts attraction, not surface-level politeness, not fake compliments. Real, consistent respect. When we talk about attraction, most people think about physical beauty or chemistry, but long-term attraction is psychological. A man's brain is constantly asking, "How does she see me?" And the answer to that question shapes how deeply he connects. If he feels admired and respected, attraction grows stronger. If he feels belittled or dismissed, attraction slowly weakens, no matter how strong it was in the beginning. Step 1 is understanding what respect actually means to a man. Respect is not obedience. It is not silence. It is recognition. It means acknowledging his effort, his abilities, his intentions, and his role. Men are often wired to tie their identity to competence. They want to feel capable. They want to feel useful. They want to feel that they can provide value. When a woman communicates, directly or indirectly, that she sees his strength and appreciates his effort, his brain registers that as validation. And validation creates attachment. Step 2 is recognizing how disrespect shows up in small ways. It is not always loud insults. Sometimes it is constant correction, mocking jokes in front of others, comparing him to another man, rolling eyes when he speaks, interrupting him repeatedly, questioning every decision as if he is incapable. These small behaviors may seem harmless, but the brain keeps score. Over time, repeated disrespect creates emotional distance. He may not argue. He may not complain. But attraction quietly decreases because admiration is fading. Step 3 is understanding the emotional impact of belief. When a woman genuinely believes in the man's potential, it changes how he sees himself. Her belief becomes fuel. Imagine he is trying to start a new project or take a risk in his career. He is already battling internal doubt. If the person closest to him says, "That's unrealistic," or "You'll probably fail," his brain associates her with discouragement. But if she says, "I know this is hard, but I believe you can figure it out," something shifts inside him. He feels stronger. He feels supported. He feels respected. And that emotional boost strengthens attraction because he links her presence with empowerment. Step 4 is tone and delivery. You can disagree respectfully. Respect does not mean blind agreement. It means expressing differences without attacking his character. For example, instead of saying, "You never think things through," you could say, "Can we talk about this decision? I want to understand your thinking." The second approach invites conversation. The first approach creates defense. When a man feels attacked, his brain moves into protection mode. When he feels respected, his brain stays open. Step 5 is public respect versus private correction. Correcting him in front of others can damage attraction quickly. Public embarrassment triggers shame. Shame shuts down connection. If something needs to be discussed, doing it privately preserves dignity. Dignity is deeply tied to masculine identity. When dignity is protected, emotional safety and attraction grow together. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you were at a dinner with friends. He tells a story and exaggerates a small detail. You know it is slightly inaccurate. In that moment, you have two choices. You can interrupt and say, "That's not what happened. You're saying it wrong." Everyone laughs. He smiles, but inside he feels small. Or you can let him finish and later, in private, gently clarify. The first response creates subtle disrespect. The second preserves his pride. Over time, these small moments shape how he feels around you. Respect also shows up in how you talk about him when he is not present. If you constantly complain about him to others, criticize his habits publicly, or make him the subject of jokes, that energy eventually reaches him. Even if he does not hear every word, he senses the attitude. And when he senses that he is not honored in your space, attraction weakens. Another important layer is gratitude. Many people focus on what their partner is not doing instead of what they are doing. When appreciation is rare, effort decreases. But when effort is noticed, it increases. If he fixes something, handles a problem, or supports you emotionally, acknowledging it matters. A simple, "I appreciate you for that," reinforces his sense of value. Feeling valued strengthens attraction because it satisfies the human need to matter. Now here's one actionable tip you can apply immediately. For the next 7 days, intentionally acknowledge one thing he does well each day. It can be small. "I like how calm you handled that. You always try to solve problems. I respect how hard you work." Say it sincerely and specifically. Do not exaggerate. Do not flatter. Just recognize. This simple habit shifts the emotional atmosphere. His brain begins associating you with affirmation instead of criticism. Respect also means trusting his decisions unless he gives you a reason not to. Constant suspicion or micromanaging communicates doubt. Doubt feels like disrespect. Trust communicates confidence. Confidence feels empowering. When a man feels trusted, he rises. When he feels constantly questioned, he withdraws. It is important to remember that respect must go both ways. Healthy attraction grows when both people feel valued. But if you want to understand why respect deeply impacts attraction, it is because admiration is oxygen for desire. When admiration disappears, attraction suffocates. When admiration grows, attraction strengthens naturally. At the deepest level, respect tells him, "I see your strength. I see your effort. I see your intention." And when a man feels truly seen in that way, his emotional investment increases. He wants to protect the connection. He wants to provide more. He wants to stay. Respect is not loud. It is consistent. It is shown in tone, words, reactions, and choices. And over time, it becomes one of the strongest foundations of lasting attraction. He chooses based on how she makes him feel about himself. This is one of the most powerful truths about attraction. Yet most people completely overlook it. We often think a man chooses a woman because of her beauty, her personality, or her achievements. And yes, those things matter. But on a deeper psychological level, his brain is constantly asking one quiet question: who do I become when I'm around her? The answer to that question shapes everything. Step 1 is understanding that human beings are emotional creatures. We may think we choose logically, but we attach emotionally. A man might admire many women. He might find several attractive, but the one he feels drawn to long-term is usually the one who makes him feel strong, capable, respected, and valued. His brain associates her presence with positive emotions about himself, and the brain naturally moves toward what feels good. Step 2 is recognizing that identity is extremely important to men. Many men tie their self-worth to competence, strength, intelligence, and purpose. If he feels admired in these areas, he feels empowered. If he feels constantly criticized or compared, he feels diminished. When he feels diminished repeatedly, attraction weakens. Not because he dislikes her, but because he dislikes how he feels about himself around her. Think about it like this. If every time he shares an idea he hears, "That won't work." If every time he tries something new he hears, "You're not good at that." Over time, his brain connects her presence with self-doubt, and the human mind avoids environments that create insecurity. But if when he shares an idea he hears, "That's interesting, tell me more," his brain connects her with confidence and growth. Step 3 is understanding emotional reflection. The people around us act like mirrors. They reflect back an image of who we are. If she reflects back strength, he feels strong. If she reflects back weakness, he feels weak. This reflection does not have to be exaggerated praise. It is often subtle. It is in tone, body language, and daily interactions. For example, imagine he is trying to improve his health. He starts going to the gym, eating better, and working on discipline. If she says, "Why are you suddenly acting different?" with a mocking tone, he feels judged. But if she says, I like this focused version of you, he feels reinforced. That reinforcement strengthens not only his habits, but also his attachment to her, because she becomes associated with his better self. Step 4 is realizing that growth creates attraction. When he feels that being around her inspires him to improve, his brain labels the relationship as valuable. It is not about pressure, it is about inspiration. Pressure feels heavy, inspiration feels uplifting. There is a difference between you need to change and I see your potential. One creates resistance, the other creates motivation. Men often choose the woman who makes them feel capable of more, not because she demands it, but because her presence awakens ambition. When he feels lazy around someone, that relationship often stays casual. But when he feels driven, focused, and emotionally stronger around someone, he sees long-term potential. His brain associates her with progress, and the brain loves progress because progress feels like survival and success. Step 5 is emotional confidence. If she's constantly insecure, constantly seeking reassurance, constantly doubting his interest, he may begin to feel inadequate. He may feel like he is failing her. Over time, that feeling becomes exhausting. But if she carries self-confidence, if she trusts herself and trusts him, he feels confident in the relationship. Competence increases attraction because it strengthens his identity. Let's look at one practical example. Imagine he gets a promotion at work. He feels proud but slightly nervous about the new responsibilities. If she responds with, "Don't mess it up," even jokingly, his brain registers anxiety. But if she says, "They chose you for a reason. You worked hard for this," his brain connects her with belief. That belief makes him feel capable. And the more capable he feels around her, the more emotionally attached he becomes. This does not mean pretending or overpraising. Authenticity matters. Empty compliments do not build deep attraction. Sincere acknowledgement does. When she genuinely recognizes his effort, his discipline, or his character, it strengthens his internal self-image, and he will naturally gravitate toward the person who strengthens his self-image. Now here is one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Start paying attention to how your words shape his self-perception. Before responding to him, ask yourself, will this make him feel stronger or smaller? Choose responses that reinforce his strengths instead of highlighting his flaws. For example, if he struggles with something, instead of saying, "You're bad at this," say, "You usually figure things out. I know you'll handle it." This small shift can completely change the emotional tone of the relationship. It is also important to avoid constant comparison. Comparing him to other men, celebrities, or even past partners damages how he feels about himself. Comparison creates competition, not connection. When he feels compared, he feels measured. When he feels measured, he feels pressure. Attraction grows best in environments of acceptance, not competition. It asks you to be fearless and bold. It asks you to face vulnerability and embrace vulnerability. Yet still open your heart grand gestures. If he feels respected, admired, inspired, and capable around her, his brain links her with his best version. If he feels criticized, doubted, and inadequate, his brain links her with stress. This is why some relationships feel magnetic even without perfection. It is not about flawless beauty or constant excitement. It is about emotional elevation. When he leaves a conversation feeling confident instead of drained, that matters. When he shares a dream and feels supported instead of judged, that matters. When he faces a problem and feels encouraged instead of blamed, that matters. He chooses based on emotional association. If being with her feels like growth, strength, and self-respect, he sees her as irreplaceable. Because in choosing her, he is also choosing the version of himself that he likes the most. Shared values matter more than shared hobbies. In the beginning of a relationship, hobbies feel exciting. You both like the same music. You both enjoy the same movies. You both love traveling, fitness, or late night conversations. That chemistry feels powerful. It creates quick bonding. But when a man's brain starts thinking long term, it shifts focus. It stops asking, "Do we have fun together?" and starts asking, "Can we build a life together?" That is where shared values become more important than shared interests. Step 1 is understanding the difference between hobbies and values. Hobbies are activities. They are things you do. Values are beliefs. They are things you stand for. Hobbies can change over time. Today you love the gym. Tomorrow you prefer hiking. Today you enjoy gaming. Tomorrow you lose interest. But values are deeper. They guide decisions. They shape character. They influence how you handle money, family, loyalty, honesty, ambition, faith, and conflict. Step 2 is recognizing how the brain evaluates long-term compatibility. In the early stages, attraction is driven by novelty and excitement. Similar hobbies create easy conversation. They make dates fun. But when emotions deepen, the brain begins scanning for stability. It looks for alignment in core beliefs. If two people enjoy the same hobbies but disagree on fundamental values, tension slowly builds. That tension may not explode immediately, but over time it creates emotional distance. For example, imagine two people both love traveling and adventure. They post beautiful pictures together. They laugh a lot. But one values financial discipline and long-term savings, while the other values living in the moment and spending freely. At first, it feels minor. Later, it becomes conflict. Or imagine both enjoy social gatherings, but one deeply values loyalty and boundaries in relationships, while the other believes flirting is harmless fun. Again, hobbies match, but values clash. And value clashes are much harder to solve than hobby differences. Step 3 is understanding why shared values create emotional security. When a man sees that a woman shares his core principles, his brain relaxes. He feels understood at a deeper level. If he values family and she also prioritizes family, he sees future stability. If he values honesty and she consistently communicates truthfully, he feels trust. If he values growth and she invests in self-improvement, he sees partnership. Shared values reduce uncertainty, and the brain prefers certainty when thinking about commitment. Step 4 is realizing that hobbies can be learned, but values are rarely forced. You can learn to enjoy his favorite sport. He can learn to enjoy your favorite show. You can both try new activities together, but forcing someone to change their core beliefs usually creates resentment. That is why long-term attraction is built on alignment of principles, not just shared entertainment. Step 5 is looking at how values show up in everyday decisions. Values influence how someone reacts during stress. They shape how conflicts are handled. They guide priorities. For instance, if he values respect during arguments and she also believes in calm communication, disagreements become manageable. But if one believes in yelling to release emotions while the other believes in calm discussion, constant friction develops. Shared values act like a compass. They keep both people moving in the same direction even when life gets difficult. Here's one practical example. Imagine a couple who both love fitness. They train together, cook healthy meals, and motivate each other physically. But when it comes to career ambition, one partner wants stability and routine, while the other wants high risk and entrepreneurship. Over time, their life visions begin to separate. The fitness hobby cannot fix the long-term disagreement about lifestyle goals. Now imagine another couple who have different hobbies. One loves reading, the other loves sports. They do not share many activities, but they both deeply value loyalty, honesty, personal growth, and financial responsibility. Even though their hobbies differ, their life direction aligns. That alignment creates stronger long-term attraction. A man's brain looks at values when considering commitment, because values predict future behavior. Hobbies predict fun weekends. Values predict future stability. When he sees that her beliefs match his vision for life, he feels safe investing emotionally. He begins imagining a shared future because their foundations match. Shared values also reduce unnecessary power struggles. If both believe in mutual respect, they naturally avoid humiliation or manipulation. If both value independence, they give each other space without insecurity. If both value communication, problems are discussed instead of buried. This harmony strengthens attraction because peace becomes consistent. Now here is one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Instead of focusing only on shared interests, start asking deeper questions during conversations. Ask about long-term goals. Ask about views on family, money, growth, loyalty, and purpose. Listen carefully. Do not try to impress. Just observe alignment. For example, you might ask, what does a successful life look like to you? Or how do you handle conflict in relationships? These questions reveal values. When you understand someone's core beliefs, you can determine compatibility more clearly. It is also important to reflect on your own values first. If you are unclear about what you stand for, you may chase chemistry instead of compatibility. When you know your principles, you can recognize alignment faster, and alignment creates confidence in decision-making. Shared hobbies create excitement. Shared values create uncertainty. Excitement starts relationships. Endurance sustains them. A man may be attracted to many women who share his interests, but he will seriously choose the one who shares his vision. Because when values align, daily decisions become easier. Conflicts become manageable. Goals become shared missions instead of separate battles. In the end, hobbies make moments enjoyable. Values make life sustainable. And when a man senses that a woman's core beliefs match his direction, his brain shifts from temporary attraction to long-term selection. Emotional maturity seals the decision. Attraction may start with looks. Connection may grow through chemistry. Shared values may build stability. But when a man is deciding whether a woman is truly the one, emotional maturity becomes the final filter. It is the difference between a temporary relationship and a long-term commitment. His brain begins to ask, can I build a peaceful life with her? And the answer depends heavily on emotional control, communication, and self-awareness. Step 1 is understanding what emotional maturity actually means. It does not mean being emotionless. It does not mean never getting upset. Emotional maturity means being able to feel emotions without being controlled by them. It means expressing anger without disrespect. It means handling disappointment without creating drama. It means taking responsibility instead of always blaming. When a woman can manage her emotions in a balanced way, she signals stability. And stability is deeply attractive on a long-term level. Step 2 is recognizing how the brain reacts to chaos versus calm. The human nervous system constantly scans for stress. If every disagreement turns into shouting, silent treatment, threats, or emotional games, his brain associates the relationship with tension. Over time, tension becomes exhausting. Even if he loves her, he begins to feel drained. But when conflicts are handled with calm discussion, his brain associates the relationship with safety. He feels that problems can be solved instead of escalated. That feeling makes commitment easier. Step 3 is accountability. Emotional maturity shows when someone can say, I was wrong, without ego. Many relationships suffer because both people try to win arguments instead of solving problems. When a woman can admit mistakes and apologize sincerely, it shows strength, not weakness. His brain interprets this as reliability. It tells him that issues will not spiral out of control because she is self-aware. Accountability reduces fear of future conflict. Step 4 is communication style. Emotionally mature communication is direct but respectful. It avoids mind games. It avoids manipulation. It avoids expecting him to guess feelings. Instead of saying, you should know why I'm upset. Emotional maturity sounds like, I felt hurt when that happened. That clarity reduces confusion. Men often struggle with indirect communication. When feelings are expressed clearly, misunderstandings decrease. Clear communication builds trust, and trust strengthens long-term attraction. Step 5 is emotional independence. Emotional maturity means she does not rely entirely on him to regulate her feelings. She has her own coping strategies. She can calm herself down. She does not expect him to fix every emotion. When a man feels responsible for someone's constant emotional stability, pressure increases. But when he sees that she can manage herself while still sharing her feelings openly, he feels partnership instead of burden. Partnership is attractive. Burden is not. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine he forgets an important date, like a planned dinner. There are 2 possible reactions. The first reaction is explosive anger, accusations, bringing up past mistakes, and maybe even threatening the relationship. In that moment, his brain shifts into defense mode. He feels attacked. He may apologize, but emotionally, he withdraws. The second reaction is calm but firm communication. I felt disappointed when he forgot. It mattered to me. This response expresses emotion without attacking his character. It opens the door for understanding instead of conflict. The second reaction shows emotional maturity, and that maturity builds respect and long-term security. Emotional maturity also shows during stressful life events. When finances get tight, when work becomes overwhelming, when family issues arise, immature reactions create chaos. Blame increases, drama increases, but mature reactions focus on solutions. Instead of, this is all your fault, it becomes, how can we handle this together? That shift from blame to teamwork is powerful. It transforms the relationship into a partnership. Another key part of emotional maturity is consistency. Mood swings that feel unpredictable create instability. If he never knows whether he will face warmth or coldness, he feels anxious. But consistent emotional behavior builds trust. Trust grows when reactions are steady. He knows what to expect. Predictability in emotional responses reduces stress and increases attachment. Self-awareness is also critical. An emotionally mature woman reflects on her triggers. She understands where her reactions come from. She does not project past pain onto present situations. If she has been hurt before, she communicates her fears instead of punishing him for someone else's mistakes. That awareness protects the relationship from unnecessary damage. Here is one actionable tip you can apply immediately. The next time you feel triggered or upset, pause before responding. Take 5 slow breaths. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling, and what do I need right now? Then communicate that clearly. For example, instead of reacting with anger, say, I need reassurance right now, or I need a few minutes to calm down before we talk. This simple pause prevents emotional escalation. It shows control. It shows awareness. And it instantly increases emotional maturity in the relationship. Emotional maturity also means letting go of the need to win. In immature dynamics, every disagreement becomes a competition. But in mature dynamics, the focus shifts to understanding. When she listens without interrupting, when she tries to see his perspective, he feels respected. Feeling respected strengthens attraction because it supports his sense of dignity. Over time, a man evaluates whether arguments lead to growth or destruction. If every conflict leaves emotional scars, he hesitates about the future. But if conflicts lead to clarity and deeper understanding, he feels hopeful. Hope is essential for commitment. Emotional maturity is powerful because it signals readiness. It tells him that she is capable of handling real life, not just romantic moments. It tells him that love will not disappear during stress. It tells him that disagreements will not destroy connection. When he sees emotional stability, accountability, clear communication, and self-control, his uncertainty decreases. And when uncertainty decreases, decision-making becomes easier. Attraction may bring him close. Shared values may align your paths. But emotional maturity reassures him that the relationship can survive challenges. And when his brain feels that long-term peace is possible, that is when the decision becomes clear. So here's the truth behind everything we've talked about. A man doesn't choose his dream woman by accident. He doesn't choose only with his eyes. He chooses with his emotions, his nervous system, and his vision for the future. First, he looks for emotional safety, someone he can relax around. Then he responds to respect, someone who sees his strength and believes in him. He pays attention to how he feels about himself in her presence, stronger or smaller. He evaluates shared values, not just shared fun. And finally, emotional maturity seals the decision, because peace is priceless. When all these align, his mind stops wandering, his doubts become quieter, his investment becomes deeper. And here's the powerful part. This isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about becoming emotionally aware, grounded, and aligned with your own values. When you grow into that version of yourself, you don't chase attention. You don't compete for validation. You naturally attract commitment. Because the right man isn't looking for noise. He's looking for peace. He's looking for partnership. He's looking for a woman who feels like home and growth at the same time. And when he finds that, the decision becomes easy.